Bizarre. A word that defines the whole career of a man from his downfall to his rise. It's also a term that has been used amongst most JoJo fans to connect with one another, instantly recognizing and bonding over the series' unique elements. It's much like how the iconic terms Kamehameha or Chakra from Naruto are used amongst other anime fans to bond. This video takes a deep look at Hirohiko Araki's bizarre journey of not only becoming a unique manga artist, but also creating the most unique shonen piece of all time. Araki's road to success is filled with countless controversies, so things weren't always smooth for him. However, over the last 30 years, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has gained a reputation for being one of the most bizarre, innovative, and unique manga series ever created. Before Araki was the mastermind behind a $9.8 billion manga, he was constantly rejected, banned, and forced to be at war with professional manga editors to reframe the roles of what it means to be a GOAT manga artist. Now, before we learn the lessons behind his rejection, let's learn how Araki entered the mangaka industry and developed some of the most interesting skills throughout his journey of becoming an artist. Chapter 1. Early Life. Araki was born on June 7th, 1960 in Sendai, Japan, a place popular for its unique festivals. He grew up with his parents and younger identical twin sisters whom he hated quite a lot. The impact of hating his sisters was so strong that Araki spent most of his time alone, which ultimately led him to fall in love with all things manga at a very young age. He jokingly stated at a Tokai High School event that he would fight his sisters daily, and if he hadn't got into manga reading, he would have gotten out of hand and killed them. That means, from a very early age, Araki would isolate himself to read his favourite manga and watch anime. At that time, Araki didn't know anything about art or bringing his fantasies to life until one day he discovered his father's art books. And by the end of the 4th grade, Araki completed his first work. The more he drew, the more he fell in love with the artwork. But ironically, even though his father's artworks inspired him to draw, his parents weren't in favour of him becoming a professional manga artist. They wanted Araki to take a more traditional route, something like an office job, which Araki hated at the time. Because you see, Araki is anything but traditional, and you'll see as we cover his adult life. Reluctant to give up, Araki used to show his artwork to his friends who were really supportive of him and even told Araki that he drew well, which boosted his belief and confidence. This was enough to stick with him and motivated him to move forward, so Araki then decided that he'd do anything it took to become a great manga artist. So he would take every chance to draw, to the point of even going behind his parents' back to draw when he was supposed to be doing his homework, chores, or even sleeping. As Araki grew older, he fell in love with many kinds of artworks. And guess what? His artistic influences were quite unorthodox as compared to most manga artists, which really explains the bizarreness and uniqueness in Araki's works. Instead of just seeking inspiration from the manga industry, he derived a lot of inspiration from artists from all mediums. Like Araki fell in love with the unique works of French artist Paul Gauguin, who's known for using bold colours, strong lines, and a simple style. His artworks really inspire Araki to use bold colours to create an unrealistic world. For example, Araki turned the skies yellow and trees purple in JoJo's Part 4. Now, when Araki was in his first year of high school, he was more confident in his abilities, which urged him to start submitting his work to the well-known manga company Shueisha. This industry is the dream place and the destination of success for almost every manga artist, whether it be Ichiro Oda or even Akira Toriyama, the masterminds behind One Piece and Dragon Ball Z. To this day, Shueisha has a strong hold over the manga industry while constantly working to produce amazing series like Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen. Chapter 2. Manga Debut Period. Araki had no choice but to take the typical road to achieve his dreams by submitting his work to Shueisha. But for Araki, this dream was starting to feel impossible because all of the manga that was submitted faced constant rejections that year, and he couldn't understand why. So he decided to go all the way to the Tokyo Shueisha office to figure out the reason behind his rejections in person. He even carried his first manga Poker under arms with him, and surprisingly, Araki managed to talk his way into a meeting with one of the Shueisha's editors, who was highly critical critical of his work. The editor also gave his feedback on the things Araki could improve. However, Araki continued working on his manga, and when he was done with his high school, he enrolled at Miyagi University of Education, where he decided to pursue design and fashion. Even in his high school years, he got obsessed with all the different fashion styles from around the world and various other designs. It led Araki to fall in love with Michelangelo's works, an Italian painter, sculptor, architect, and poet. He's literally one of the most famous artists in human history and an inspiration to many, so it's no wonder why someone like Araki fell deeply in love with his work. Surprisingly, Araki had paid a lot of tribute to Michelangelo throughout his work, but like any real JoJo fan, we know it's the fashion that makes Araki's work stand out, and it's thanks to his university years that he was able to hone his designing skills. Araki discovered all of his interests by the age of 21, but in his heart, he still wanted to be a professional manga artist. Araki worked super hard on Poker Arms and created its rework, which was a Western-themed manga about a duel between two gunmen over a poker game. So, in 1980, Araki submitted this manga for the Tezuka Awards, hoping to make it big. Even though one of the editors highly criticized his work, all the other editors saw potential and put Poker Under Arms as the runner-up in the Tezuka Awards. And this would be the start of his manga career as a working manga artist. It was a huge step forward on his dream. In 1981, he released another manga called Outlaw Man and Say Hi to Virginia, a sci-fi manga. Each time Araki was improving, but none of these mangas would be a big hit. So this was quite disappointing for Araki, but it didn't stop him from submitting another manga called Cool Shock BT, a manga focusing on a young magician who solves mysteries and crime. This manga helped him finally debut in Shueisha's Weekly Jump, but unluckily, it was far too different from what Jump readers were used to, and his manga would get cancelled after only 6 chapters. But Araki bounced back and released Bao, a story of a kidnapped 17-year-old who was also planted by an evil parasite by the government. Sadly, this manga lasted only 9 chapters as the readers couldn't understand Araki's unique style. Chapter 3. Araki's personal life. In the late 1980s, Araki first met Asami, his wife. The two had been married for over 30 years with 2 daughters. Asami isn't only known as Araki's wife, but she's also the inspiration behind some of his manga characters, including Yukako Yamagishi and Scarlet Valentine. Their initial encounter occurred when Asami attended a marriage interview with a friend and Araki was a friend of the groom-to-be. They were sitting across each other and Asami felt an instant connection. And the twist? She got his phone number. Their relationship began when Asami called Araki at the gym. She asked him directly on a date and he invited her to join him at the pool. Their story is just like a rom-com one, since the two of them swam on the first day of their date. Despite this awkward start, the two actually connected pretty well. By 1990, right after 3 months, Araki and Asami got married. Their marriage influenced the way Araki handled his work, mostly in the creation of the character Yukako Yamagishi from JoJo Part 4. Araki wanted to represent a different side of women, and he drew inspiration from his experiences of his wife, although Asami wasn't as extreme as Yukako. When their marriage started, Asami explained Araki's personality as childish and playful, since she was fond of pranking her neighbors by ringing their bell and running away. Despite this behavior, he was well loved in his neighborhood, though most of them treated Araki like a child. Overall, the two share a deep bond and run a happy family together. It's even worth noting how Asami went all the way to Araki's event at the University of Tokyo School Festival, where she shared funny stories related to his shyness and his introverted side that many were surprised to learn. On November the 21st, 2009, Asami talked about her personal life with Araki at Tokyo University's 60th Gomba Festival. This interview was called JoJo and Asami Araki's Bizarre Life. The event was instantly sold out with over 300 tickets, with a large crowd lining up only to hear Asami speak. Despite her nervousness, Asami agreed to the lecture, noting that Araki stepped away due to his fear of public speaking and was praying for Asami at a shrine. How wholesome, right? In this interview, Asami talked about her early romance and quirky moments in their life together. For instance, she shared that Araki, once shy, now hosted manga artist parties and uses music to inspire his manga scenes. She also describes Araki's workspace as intense and energetic. Adding up to the personal details of Araki, Asami also shared that if it wasn't for a manga artist, Araki would have surely become an inspiring makeup artist. In the same interview, Asami told everyone that Araki enjoys life, mostly indoors while avoiding the sun. For a manga artist, it's understandable that they stay indoors working on their manga. So we can't really blame Araki, right? Chapter 4. First manga success. In 1985, Araki created a manga after getting some inspiration from visiting Italy. It was titled Gorgeous Irene, a story that tells us about a female assassin who's extremely gorgeous and uses her makeup to transform to accomplish her mission. This manga was unique at the time, and it showed Araki's ability to bring the truly bizarre to life. Out of all of his early works, Gorgeous Irene gave off the most JoJo vibe. Even though the overall storyline and artwork were amazing, Shueisha rejected it because of the female protagonist, which might be unsuitable for their male audience. Araki was just way ahead of his time, and the constant rejection was depressing him. On top of that, two manga artists who started their journeys with Araki faced massive amounts of success with their work Kinnikuman. This wrestling manga faced massive success and became popular very quickly. It made Araki realize what he lacked. Araki would implement all of the best things he learned from his life and take an analytical look at the manga industry. That way, he could package his unique style in a way that was appealing to many readers and Shueisha. During that time, the prominent theme for all media was jacked, sweaty, and buffer dudes. Araki would combine this trend with his bizarre ideas, and just like that, he gave one last try while putting everything into JoJo's bizarre adventure Phantom Blood. Phantom Blood was a unique story at the time that focused on Jonathan Joestar, the heir to the wealthy Joestar, and his adopted brother Dio Brando, who planned to take the fortune for himself. JoJo really featured buff dudes infused with Araki's love for the dark horror genre and implementations of vampires and ghouls. After its official release on Shonen Jump on January 1st, 1987, Araki's editor begged Jump not to cancel JoJo since they would cut the series that wouldn't make it in the charts. But at the same time, the charts were dominated by big names like Dragon Ball Z and Fist of the North Star, which inspired Araki to create the main character Buff in Phantom Blood. Araki continued working on his next release, Battle Tendency. This time, he wanted to create something easier for fans to remember, so he named the main character Jonathan, or JoJo, and the antagonist Dio, which means God, and it really explains the God complex Dio has. Next, he came up with a Japanese protagonist in the third part of JoJo, Stardust Crusaders, where he gave each character goals and made the fight act as checkpoints for the protagonist Jotaro. And this was the part that was the turning point for Araki, since Jotaro skyrocketed JoJo's popularity across Japan, which motivated Araki to continue the JoJo adventures. Part 3 JoJo was the most important part due to the three elements: group dynamic, Kujo Jotaro, and stands. Chapter 5: JoJo's Evolution. The popularity of Stardust Crusaders kept on increasing due to the fun character interaction that led fans to create memes about them. Indeed, Stardust Crusaders was one of the most important arcs in JoJo that served as the emotional backbone that would carry the series into the next part. When it comes to the main character, Jotaro is portrayed as a Japanese delinquent, and we all know how people enjoy the stories and badassery of delinquents in Japan. So, Jotaro was not the only reason behind JoJo's massive rise, but he also became the face of the JoJo franchise. In fact, he's been voted as the most popular JoJo character in various polls throughout the years. And for good reason too. His character is based on one of the most legendary actors, Clint Eastwood, from The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, Dirty Harry, Gran Torino, and pretty much every iconic gunslinging movie. To much surprise, Jotaro's finger-pointing pose was actually inspired by Eastwood pointing his .44 Magnum, and that's exactly why Jotaro seems a bit rougher as compared to other protagonists. Luckily, Araki managed to meet his hero Clint Eastwood in 2012, where he gifted him with Jotaro and Iggy's illustration, and Clint Eastwood proved that he's just as cool as he seems on camera. He did Jotaro's pose in a side-by-side panel of the illustration that Araki gave him. JoJo's Evolution started when Araki shifted his focus from the Harmon power system to stand abilities that fans just still can't get enough of. These stands are badass and unique alternative power systems serving as visual manifestations of life energy. It can be best defined as a ghost-like entity produced by its user which possesses a variety of skills depending on the personality of its user. And Araki got this cool idea when he was focusing on reading spiritualism and yokai folklore. Later on, Araki got more inspiration from the manga Ushino no Hyakutaro. He decided to take the idea of psychic powers and blend them into a spirit-like entity summoned by its user. While Araki's editor was against the idea of introducing a stand and shifting his focus, with an introduction to a few stands, he got permission to blend the stand system into the story. That's when Araki decided to refer to the stands based on artists, albums, and songs. He even stated that he had a blast creating creating stands, and that would shift the whole plot of the story and take it to the next level. The reason why JoJo is so diverse is because of Araki's interests. His character design sheets where he'd place the personality traits, hobbies, and even their backstories. That's literally genius of him, because he said that it would impact the decisions his characters would make, knowing who they truly are as a person, even if they're just side characters. The best example would be Kira. He did have his origin story that didn't make it to the official JoJo's Bizarre Adventure story. Chapter 6. More JoJo Inspirations. Quick fact checked as we move to JoJo Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable. Araki stated that this part was inspired by the works of Stephen King. He became obsessed with serial killers. He also described the theme of Part 4 as horror may be lying right behind our everyday lives, similar to his favourite books and movie, Sound of the Lamb. Araki was also heavily influenced by Sherlock Holmes, the detective novel, to the point he said that there would be no JoJo if he hadn't read that novel. Now, in Part 4, Rohan is someone with the most Holmes-like character because of his endless curiosity and tendency to perceive other human beings as research subjects. The JoJo inspirations are unstoppable, and Araki continued to draw inspirations from here and there, one being Antonio Lopez, who deserves an honourable mention. His designs are often covered in lots of patterns and jewellery. They can be seen in the golden badges worn by Jotaro and Josuke in Part 4, carrying all the way to Part 5. Another impressive reference in JoJo is Dio Brando's pose, which mirrors the haute couture painting by Nina Ricci in 1984. Speaking of poses, Araki often derived fashion inspiration from fashion models on the runways and incorporated their style into his artwork. However, nowadays, many designers are being inspired by Araki's design of impractical fashion blended with fantastical aspects. One great example would be Lisa Matoshi, a designer based in New York who's currently making waves for her JoJo-inspired everyday designs. You can see in many of her designs, she's incorporated a theme or a touch of a JoJo character. Another thing that left a significant impact on Araki is music, so he went on to name his stands and their abilities after songs of musicians. Many great examples include Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap by AC/DC, which is actually the Funny Valentine stand name, also known as D4C. Then there's the Red Hot Chili Pepper, which is Akira Otoshi's stand featured in Diamond is Unbreakable. But it gets even deeper than that. There's an article that claims that Jonathan and Dio's names were inspired by music as well. Jonathan's name was inspired by the Beatles song called Get Back, and Dio's name was inspired by the heavy metal singer Ronnie James from the band Dio. Another important name throughout the JoJo series is Zeppelin, inspired by the original legendary rock band Led Zeppelin. Then there's Josuke's Crazy Diamond, inspired by one of the most famous rock bands, Pink Floyd's Shine On, You Crazy Diamond. These Araki music references make JoJo act as a rock playlist suggestion by him. You see, the biggest Hollywood stars like Billie Eilish seem to be JoJo fans, with many of her outfits inspired by JoJo characters. Social media has been going crazy with Billie posting her pictures wearing JoJo clothes and doing JoJo poses. I mean, it's not every day you get to see celebrities wearing anime merch, especially in Hollywood. Chapter 7. JoJo's Success. Now, being acknowledged not only in Japan but internationally, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has faced some of the greatest wins and awards. With over 120 million copies in circulation, it's become one of the most influential and highest-selling manga of all time. With his hard-earned success, Araki is respected by some of the most popular manga artists like Bleach's Kubo, One Piece's Oda, and Naruto's Kishimoto. Their relationship is very wholesome as they meet up and celebrate JoJo's anniversary. Can you imagine these manga artists meeting up after work to get some drinks? I mean, they may be ordinary people, but the masterpieces they've created make them different than regular people. Not everyone can create a legendary story like One Piece, Naruto, DBZ, and even JoJo. Araki's success expands to fashion brands, and he's partnered with official names like Gucci, and has also held an exhibit that featured a collaboration. It was called Rohan Ghost by Gucci. This exhibit featured a big Rohan figure, as well as a lot of Araki's illustrations, including Gucci's 2011 and 2012 fall-winter collections. The exhibit's success further influenced Araki to create a spin-off story called Jolene, Fly High with Gucci, which features Jolene as she discovers the mystery behind a vintage piece she inherited from her mother. Studying fashion at Miyagi University really proved to be beneficial for Araki since it shaped his sense of style, influenced his unique character designs, and most importantly, had a great impact on the story of JoJo. Anyway, fast forward to 2013, Araki held another exhibit at Audemars Vadovi Gallery where he showcased his original illustrations for the very first time, and it was an influential moment for him. He didn't know that the people who didn't read JoJo mangas were also fans of his art. A popular car brand like Mercedes-Benz is also part of Araki's few more impressive collaborations where the whole Mercedes-Benz was a JoJo reference showcasing Araki's designs and patterns. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean has been nominated for several categories at the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, including categories like Best Character Design, Best Continuing Series, and Best Action Series. JoJo's Success proves that it's okay to be different from your typical shonen manga, and thanks to Araki, all the manga publishers are inspired to try new things. Today, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure stands out as a unique shonen piece that has a massive fan following from around the world. Araki really proved that hard work and talent don't go to waste. With his multi-talented personality blended with his sheer determination to become the best manga artist of all time, Hirohiko Araki pushed the boundaries of creativity and storytelling, which has left an undeniable impact on the world of manga with the iconic JoJo's Bizarre Adventure series. And that's a wrap for this documentary. Araki is a great artist and I love his work so much. Even though he might come off as someone with an eccentric personality, his work continues to blow away everyone. If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to give it a like, and if you're new here, welcome to the fam, and make sure to subscribe to this channel. I'll be covering a lot more documentaries in the future and would love for you to be a part of this journey. You can also take a look at this video or take a look around the channel for more content. Thank you for sticking around. See you in the next one.